Hi everyone, so I'm going to be sharing my first AI interview, which was I think last year, and I'm wearing like sweater and jackets as well. So yeah, it was last year, and I gave it to basically because I never gave an AI interview, so I wanted to give it a try and like you know just give it and try new feature and new thing in the market. And I gave the AI interview, and it's like an actual human because you answer something and they cross question from your answer only, and they have like the little real conversation. You can ask them anything or whatever, and they will answer you. So it was really fascinating. So I recorded my interview, and obviously I knew it was for my learning and for my experience. So it was not for anything like to get hired or anything like that. So I think the name of the platform was like there was some purple website. So the website where even the organization called Mercor, MERCOR, conducts the AI interview. So that platform I gave the AI interview just for trial, and this was last year. And obviously my answers are according to last year, so don't judge me for that. But here's my interview, and I am finally releasing it now because my storage is kind of full. So I'm like, I wanted to get clear, and that was the biggest video. And do let me know if you want to see more of these because I think I have one more videos like that, just like that. So yes.
Interested in any security or user experience considerations you had to address?
So yeah, we have worked on the banking forms, and the challenges that I faced was so we have to make it in the way that vendor was also involved and customer was also involved for the loan system. So we had to face the challenge of like understanding the whole bank system of loan because it is not what we see. There are much complexities involved to that. So I needed to understand it, and then we created a flow chart using that. So that were the challenges. So yeah.
That's interesting how you had to coordinate between vendors and customers for the loan system. Could you elaborate on how you used React components to improve the front-end performance by 25%? What specific optimizations did you implement?
Yeah, sure. So basically, we as I told you, we made mostly our projects were made on AEM. So AEM also has reusable components, but then our clients wanted to have the React project, so we made React components, and it was very beneficial to us. Like we have this website for the government of Meghalaya for their annual fest, and it was purely static website, but then we have created the components to it, and it was very useful for the users because they can access the website now easily and they have better experiences. So it was very beneficial to them.
That's fascinating work with the Meghalaya government website. You mentioned improving user experience, but could you tell me more specifically about what features or optimizations you implemented in those React components that made the website more accessible and user-friendly? For instance, what made navigation easier for users?
Yeah, so basically because React has this thing where it doesn't reload the page fully, so we can so when we have created the component, it was firstly static, so it would render the whole page, but then we have created the React component, so it was easier for people to access it.
Thanks for explaining that about React's partial page loading. I'd like to switch gears a bit and talk about your experience with Algolia. Could you tell me about a specific challenge you faced while implementing the federated search bar and how you overcame it?
Yeah, so basically I never worked on Algolia before, but then I had to work on Algolia. So Algolia is kind of like the search engine library, and then in Algolia we had different kind of things that we can use to show data, but we have this data set in form of the JSON, and then we implemented federated search, so which is like we would type like letter M, and then it would suggest all the different products of the letter M in Flipkart website, for example. So that was very new concept for me, that federated search, and also autocomplete. We also implemented the autocomplete feature. So basically, federated search is like you just type in a letter, and it would like scan the whole page of the, suppose if Flipkart page is there and you type M, so it would scan the whole page where M are, and it would, and if you type the product, if you type suppose cat, so it would like show all the things where cats are. And we also did the autocomplete feature. But the main challenge was that I never worked on Algolia, but it was very fun because I read whole Algolia documentation, and it was very fun for me to try on new things, and it will be completing, like it was very fun because I was not getting stuck that much, and even if I got stuck, I would go to documentation and learn more things about it. So it was a very unique experience for me.
It sounds like learning Algolia was a significant learning experience for you. You mentioned reading the documentation and enjoying the process of exploring a new technology. Can you share, Anne?
Can you share what?
Can you share an example of a specific problem you encountered while implementing the autocomplete feature and how you used the documentation to solve it?
Yeah, for example, in autocomplete feature, there are many kind of different features inside the Algolia. So there are different kind of things, like when you type in suppose AR, so it should be give the autocomplete suggestions, right? Like AR key, then it would give the suggestion arc, or for instance, like whatever the example is. For example, you type CA, so it should give the car suggestion. But to have that autocomplete a bar, like there is this bar where the autocomplete suggestion would show up, but there is this thing where you could for autocomplete, I would read the documentation and I would see how the different kind of templates were there to show it. Like you could show the image of the car, or you could also tell the car and its category, like it's a vehicle, and then you could show it. So there were many different kind of templates of how to show it and what to do. So I would often go to the documentation to understand according to what should I have to show.
That's a great explanation of the autocomplete feature implementation. Switching topics, during your internship at Testbook, you improved site speed by 35%. Could you walk me through the specific optimizations you made to achieve such a significant performance improvement?
Yeah, so in Testbook, I was an intern for the front end, and in Testbook they have this edtech website where students would come and access the courses. So we usually worked on the filter feature to filter the courses, and there were many different kind of things I learned at Testbook, because it was a edtech, and that how the edtech works, and how courses would be aligned, and how students would go. And there were many things, because I also assisted them in being their what do we call it, assistant teacher. No, I do not know the exact term, doubt solver or whatever, because in their web development course as well. Because I remember their web development course, there were people who were coming from tier 3 cities and who do not even have electricity, and who do not have access to that much of education, and they were coming to learn from us. And it was a very amazing experience to teach underprivileged students in Testbook. So also again, work on the different features. So sometimes I would work on their website, and sometimes they would give me tasks, or sometimes I had to review what they have made. For example, they would make a LinkedIn clone website, and then I would review it. So there were many variety of the tasks in Testbook, and I enjoyed it, everything.
You seem passionate about the educational impact of your work at Testbook. Could you tell me more specifically about the filter feature you developed? What technical challenges did you face while implementing it, and how did you ensure it performed well for users with slower internet connections?
Yeah, so basically, that was my first paid internship at Testbook, and I was not like the lead tech. I was working under my mentor, who is Paris at Testbook, and he's still there. So he would have so my team and I would have working on this feature, and we were doing this JavaScript feature, because so we would use the JSON, and we would use the filter feature to filter it in a way. And then I'm not lead, but I was working, like I learned how to filter and how to use like classic JavaScript. So that was my experience.
Let me present you with a case study based on your experience with educational platforms and React development. Imagine you're tasked with creating a new online learning platform for a coding bootcamp. The platform needs to handle live coding sessions with real-time collaboration between instructors and students, support video playback of recorded sessions, and include an intelligent code assessment system. The platform should work smoothly even in areas with poor internet connectivity. How would you approach designing the architecture for this system, keeping in mind your experience with React and educational platforms?
So first of all, I would ensure that like for education platform, if I had to make it real time, then I would see things what would make it real time. Like for example, in past I have worked on this drawing board project. So for making it real time, I have used WebSocket.io. So like I would see how to make it real time, and then I would definitely focus on how to make it easy to use and how to make it visually better. And like I would make a section of the videos, recorded lectures, I would make a section of live lectures, and then there would definitely be a section of coding, like the whole coding environment with an editor. And so this is how I'm planning to make it.
That's an interesting start with WebSocket for real-time features. Could you elaborate more on your approach to handling poor internet connectivity scenarios? How would you architect the system to ensure students can still access and interact with the content even when their connection is unstable?
For like I haven't really encountered such features, so I still have to look upon that, like what should I use, but I'm eager to learn more about it and implement it. If you wanted to suggest me anything, I would love to know.
I appreciate your honesty about not having direct experience with offline functionality. Instead of giving suggestions, let's approach this from a different angle. Based on your experience with React components, how would you structure the front-end architecture to make the application as efficient as possible? What component structure would you propose for the live coding environment?
For like component structure, for like I would use Redux as well for the navigation, and then live coding structure I would use an editor. And like what do you mean by live? I would also implement a timer for it, and then like this is how I'm thinking.
You mentioned using Redux for navigation and an editor for the live coding environment.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on how you would design the React components to create a seamless interaction between the editor, timer, and other features of the platform? What specific considerations would you keep in mind to ensure a smooth user experience?
So what I'm thinking is like I would create a structure, and I would make a timer component, and then I would make editor component, and then I would compile it in I would import it in the one particular component, and then I would make it like that. Like I'm thinking that way, but yeah, I'm thinking that way. But I know if there would be any efficient way, I would look upon it on the internet, and I don't think there's anything wrong in that. So I would possibly be looking at more examples that like how other edtechs are working on it. So yeah.
That's good that you're willing to research and learn. Let's focus on the real-time collaboration aspect since you mentioned experience with WebSocket. How would you structure the communication between instructors and students during a live coding session? What specific data would need to be synchronized in real time?
So if like for example, for my particular project, WebSocket was used in real-time drawing tool. But if there has to be what do you say, like if you're live coding feature, if it's a test or something, or then we need to, or if we need, it depends totally upon what is required. And if we need to have like doubt solving feature or something, then we could have like this chat bot where somebody can message directly to the what do we say, instructor, and instructor can have the another link using WebSocket, so he can also access the website, and they could have one-on-one conversation about the question. Or for example, if they wanted to have live like this interaction that we are having, like live session, then I would have used Google Meet or anything like that, or I would look upon the things which would make it one-to-one interaction.
You've mentioned a few interesting approaches to real-time interaction. Could you elaborate on how you would ensure secure communication between the instructor and student, especially when implementing features like the WebSocket chat or doubt-solving system? What security considerations would you prioritize?
So I would prioritize if link would be only like if there's a chatbot, so it would only be accessible on live coding session, or what do we say, live coding page. So it would not be accessible all the time, and especially since WebSocket can have this good feature where anybody can access it. But then again, if we do not want to have that, then we can have this login authentication, and then we could implement more of things like that.
You raise a good point about authentication. Building on that, how would you handle user session management in your application? For example, if a student loses connection during a live coding session, how would you maintain their progress and ensure they can seamlessly rejoin the session?
Yeah, so basically, like we have different kind of storage options, like session storage, cookie storage, or all the different kind of things. So instead of using session storage, we would use like cookie storage or something which would last longer and which would store the data. So we would store their data already instead of having it temporarily. So yeah.
You mentioned the importance of data persistence through cookies or storage. Could you walk me through how you would structure the data that needs to be stored? What specific information would you save to ensure a student can resume their work exactly where they left off?
What? Can you repeat?
What specific data would you store in the cookies or storage to ensure that if a student gets disconnected,
So I would
they can
definitely,
pick up exactly where they left off in their coding session? For
yeah.
example, what information about their work would you save?
So like I would save if they're doing coding sessions, I would save their code, and I would save their test codes. I would save whatever they were working on, because the rest of the information would already be present in the desktop, like in the website that we have built. So I would definitely store what they have entered, because all the things we would have done it already. So we need to make sure that we need to store their inputs for their session, and yeah.
You've highlighted the importance of saving the student's code and test inputs. Given your experience with React and front-end performance, how would you optimize the storage and retrieval of this session data to ensure quick loading and minimal performance impact?
So I'm thinking of using use memo and things like that. So we could like, especially if you want to load, then we can implement lazy loading as well and things like that, so that it would enhance user experience.
Thank you for taking the time to interview with us.
Thank you
Time
so
allotted
much.
for our interview has come to an end. We will reach out to you with next steps shortly.
Thank you
Please
so
click the end interview button to end the interview.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for taking the time to interview with us. The time allotted for our interview has come to an end. We will reach out to you with next steps shortly.